Hi, welcome to my channel, Readerwoman. My name's Judy, and let's talk books. I kind of got inspired by Steve Donahue's views of his collection of books, and I thought that it might be kind of fun to look at certain collections. I don't have a tremendous collection of everything, but I thought I'd start with my James Joyce collection. I have been collecting him a very long time, and I know I've shown this before, but this was my copy of Ulysses that I got in high school. You know, I got lucky in high school. I really did. My junior high teacher, science teacher, he tested me, and so at the time there wasn't really accelerated classes exactly, but what it allowed me to do when I hit high school was to take independent study, and I used that to the maximum. And one of my many was to read. So I read Shakespeare, I read James Joyce, I read Stein, Dostoevsky. I mean, I've read a variety of things, whatever I wanted to read. And I had a wonderful teacher, Miss Smith, at Chaffee High School, and who let me do it. So this is one of those special things that I got to do, and without having to wait for a class to come along. So I read this only twice. I can't believe it. It feels like it's time to take it on again, maybe next year. But I read it in high school, and then I read sections of it at college. I went to the Claremont colleges first off, and I did take a Joyce class. Yeah, I think it was Joyce. And we read selections from Ulysses. Not quite as good. And then when I moved here to Bellingham, I attended Western Washington, and they have a school called Fairhaven College. And my professor there, Don McLeod, he offered a class. And so we not only read it, but we got to read it aloud, which really showed the magic of and the genius of James Joyce. So that's an experience I'll never forget either. This thing took me through it all. So that is one of my prized possessions. However, you have to understand, when I told my beloved, oh, my book's falling apart, my beloved Miss Smith that I wanted to read Joyce, she insisted that I start elsewhere. I needed to start with the Dubliners and then read Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, which I did. But my beautiful Viking portable library is falling apart. So, but I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure this was from high school as well. So beautiful, beautiful thing, but may have to be, but as well as, because it had Portrait of the Artist in here as well as the Dubliners, and then also some of his poetry, which I thought was nice. I think it also has a selection. It has his play Exiles, and then, yeah, chamber music, and just a hint of Ulysses, and a little Finnegan's Wake. So, yeah, a little of everything. I don't know when I got that, but Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. You know what gets me is, I think, since I'm reading more and more on the Kindle, that when I buy a book, I really need to get a hardbound copy, something not necessarily of value, but something that will stand up to time. So I think that's kind of my goal. I saw where books like Woe had an amazingly beautiful copy edition of Portrait. So anyways, that would be something I'd really like to look into. This was a gift to me. This is the Modern Library edition of Ulysses. I've never gotten too much into this, but it was from my brother. I wrote that. Nice, good for me. But anyways, it's a lovely little edition, and so I won't have to repurchase Ulysses, at least. And then, of course, what collection would be complete without Finnegan's Wake? I did have 2 copies of this, but I passed another one on. I've tried reading this. I've read it aloud a little bit. You know, River run past Eve and Adams, from swerve of shore to bend of bay, bringing us by a commodious vicus of recirculation back to Howth Castle and environs. Yeah, I mean, is it readable? I know certain people get through it, but I've always wanted to know more about why, not why. I know why, partly why Finnegan's Wake happened, and that's he was trying to deal with his daughter, Lucia, who was mentally ill. And it was a terrible time to be mentally ill because there was no medications for patients, and this was kind of his attempt to deconstruct language, maybe in a way. I mean, if you think of him as believing in the magic of language, which I would, that this was maybe his attempt to try and connect to his daughter or get her to listen to him with. Anyways, I would love to know more about that connection. And just as a side note, that has been my biggest disappointment as an adult, that his papers have been tied up. I don't know if they are now free, but his grandson has destroyed a lot of his materials, and almost in a sense of, I know history creates bad things for artists. I understand that, but it almost seemed as though he was wanting to tear his grandfather apart. So he was the son of Giorgio, Joyce's son. So, you know, family animus, I don't know, but I found it very, very sad, because it was one thing that my high school teacher told me was, if you want to make a name, don't start writing about Shakespeare, because everybody in the world has written something about Shakespeare. You know, do something about Joyce where there's a lot less scholarship involved. So anyways, I always liked that. Now we go on to, oh, wait a minute here. Sorry. I do have a nicer edition of Dubliners and a portrait of the artist. I think this was another gift. Yeah. Well, this is a very nice edition of that hardback. Oh, Barnes & Noble. But at least it's a better with my poor little, what was that, Viking? Yeah, Viking portable falling apart. So at least I have this to replace it with. So I've collected a few auxiliary books about Joyce. One of which I don't have here, but it's about his wife, Nora. which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I don't have that right in front of me to even remember who wrote it. But when it comes to Joyce himself, I have the Richard Ellman James Joyce, which Oxford University Press, and it's still in fairly good condition considering its age. So the one thing about Joyce, reading him, I kind of idolized him. And then I read about him and I realized, no, the people who may create the art that you love aren't necessarily the people you want to have in your life. I'm not saying every artist is like that, but Nora had a lot to put up with. A lot. So anyways, this is one of my books of this collection. Another one I have are the Viking Compass selected Joyce letters, edited by Ellman, which I've read some. I haven't read it all, but good to have. Good to have. The one thing I can remember, I was still in high school, and it was $100. $100. But it bugs me to this day that I didn't spend it. Although I doubt if my parents would have let me. They came out with the version of Ulysses that had the color coordination, which is how he wrote and how he kept strings of thoughts and things together. He would underline in colored pencil, and I did see a copy at college, and I just go, I should have bought it. Let's see here. Then I have A Skeleton Key to Finnegan's Wake, also a Viking Compass book. And this is also Joseph Campbell. Can you believe it? Joseph Campbell and Henry Morton Robinson. So they take on Finnegan's Wake. I read some of it. Once again, it's just great resources. But yeah, so I'm pleased to have that. Then I don't know, a few years ago, let me say it that way, a few years ago, I came across this Edna O'Brien's James Joyce, which, let's see here, it's another Viking. And I haven't read it, but I have gotten very interested in Edna O'Brien. So I think she wrote The Red Chair. This is kind of a unique series in that, no, this doesn't talk about her. Sorry, it doesn't give me that title. But anyways, there is a book of hers that I'm wanting to read. But this is really a nice series that, this is Penguin Lives. So you have Mary Gordon writing on Joan of Arc. So various authors of note writing on dead authors of note. So quite interesting. And I love the book. It has a cutout here. And so here's the undercover. Very sweet. When I saw that, I had to have it. This beauty was a gift. James Joyce's Ireland by David Pierce. And this has maps, photos, maps, just, and then a sense of the city of Dublin itself. So haven't made it there yet, on my list, on my bucket list. I also found this one, which is Oxford University Press, James Joyce, A to Z, another reference book. This was written by A. Nicholson Farnoli and Michael Gillespie. So this, you know, has some great art as well, and a lot of it is about art that's been done from him or in his memory. So anyways, another great reference material. I am the lucky owner of Joyce-Brick by Anthony Burgess. And another thing I need to read. Yeah, I'm a collector. But an introduction to the language of James Joyce by the great Anthony Burgess. So happy to have that. And my last book is James Joyce's Ulysses. Well, you can't even see anything. Let's see here. By Stuart Gilbert, also one of his big, you know, well-known people who've written about Joyce. So I haven't read everything in this one either, but this one is, I guess it's deconstructing Ulysses. Wow, okay. Because I was just looking at it. Hades, Lotus Eaters, Calypso, Proteus. So yeah, another great resource. So as far as I know, outside of the Nora biography, that's about it I have for my James Joyce collection. But very happy to have him, and yeah, I can see I need to improve a little bit of it. get nicer copies. Particularly, I see Finnegan's Wake is one of them that I need. But yeah, thought I'd share, and because my library is pretty disorganized right now, but my Joyce section is all together. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye.